Good Wednesday morning of the 7th week of Easter. I just got back from church. That's why it's daylight now. It's not dark. Anyway, the readings today are interesting. It's the continuing the Acts of the Apostles, as you see the apostles going into the, in a sense, the pagan world. And yet there was the warning that be careful of defection from within. See, I'll show you, but it's also the Gospel of John. By the time John writes this is about, I told you, around 90 AD. They've already seen the expansion of the church, but they've also seen defection from within, which is the story of Christianity. The very thing that reaches out to people also indirectly leads to its own inner confliction. You see, it happened right away. Well, Judas. Yeah. Watch what this thing, this is John, of course, John 17th chapter. This guy, I mean, he really touches the real. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah. Lifting up his eyes to heaven, Jesus prayed, saying, Holy Father, keep them in your name that you have given me, so that they may be one just as we are one. The prayer for unity, see? When I was with them, I protected them in your name that you gave me, and I guarded them, and none of them was lost, except the son of destruction, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled. That's Judas, of course. But now I am coming to you. I speak this in the world, so that they may share my joy completely. I gave them your word, and the world hated them. Remember, the world means all the forces of evil, because they do not belong to the world, any more than I belong to the world. I don't ask you to take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. See, the world is really the forces of moral evil, the evil one, you see? And that's capital letters, so it means the devil. They do not belong to the world any more than I belong to the world. The forces of evil, in other words. Consecrate them in truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, so I sent them into the world. And I consecrate myself for them, so that they also may be consecrated in truth. That's powerful. See, that's John. He's already witnessed the death of his friends, his fellow apostles, etc. So they're going into a hostile world, and yet they're going in because God has commanded them to do so, and they do so not only out of obedience, but out of love. And they go into a world that is hostile to them. In so doing, by their blood, they converted that world, the Mediterranean world, and out of the Mediterranean world came, as I mentioned so many times, it became our civilization, our Western culture, our Western civilization, and it lasted almost 2,000 years. Now, it's in that sense, the culture's in crisis. I could use the word shambles because its moral foundation has been so lessened, it's been so weakened by, possibly in one way, by the conflicts within the church herself, namely the Protestant Reformation. In one way, the church desperately needed reformation. When the church got, in a sense, intimately united with the powers of the state, and whatever you want to call that, the kings, whatever it is, when it became identical to the culture, it became perverted by the culture. So popes became, as it were, kings. Instead of servants, they became kings and masters. And that led to massive corruption. No wonder we had the Protestant Reformation. I hope to God that period is over, and we will now see the unity that Christ advanced for us, a unity of faith and love, not one of fear or power, but of the gospel of love. That was the vision of the Second Vatican Council, John the 23rd. He saw that the coming together, the ecumenical, means a world council, would bring all Christian believers, the world together, in faith and love. Not law, faith and love. And in each instance within the uniqueness of these cultures. So Asians are not going to practice the faith externally, culturally, the way a Westerner would, or an African, you see? That it would be the richness of the cultural experience of the faith, but the core faith will be identical, as are the sacraments, you see? It's like a symphony orchestra. Not everyone's a trumpet player. Not everyone's a violinist. but it's the combination of all the instruments that makes for a symphonic group of musicians, a symphony. I hope that analogy works. Asian Catholicism shouldn't look like Western American, but it should be the same song. Put it another way, they shouldn't sing the same way, but it is the same song. They bring their genius to it. And I think we're right on the edge of that. I don't know if I'll see it, but our grandchildren will see it. A very deep and rich church. I made my 2 cents worth. My prediction is the next pope will be an Asian. I think so, actually. We are moving out of Eurocentrism into a global community. This is the second greatest period of the history of the church. The Romanization of the church in the 4th and 5th century, now again, 1800 years later. We are now going to be global-centered, not European-centered or Western-centered. The same faith, the same song, sung within the uniqueness of the culture that it's sung in. It's a great time. That's the whole purpose of Second Vatican Council. The first council was what to shore up the core faith. The second council was to unite us culturally with all the variety of culture. A true universal church, but not a monolithic church. That's the genius of John the 23rd and Paul the 6th. Paul the 6th doesn't get enough credit. See? We live in a great age. I don't want to beat this thing to death, but it's the greatest age since the 4th century, 5th century, the Romanization of the church. Now it's the globalization of the church. That is so special, so special. And I hope it will lead to the reunification of the Christian faith, the Christian communities, that we don't have to become identical in the sense of our modes of expression, but that we will be united in love and faith, that we are not in opposition to each other, but in cooperative love. See, I hope so, anyway. I won't see it in my lifetime. I think we're there, actually. We're in a way, we're already there. We're talking to each other. When I see a minister, I don't see the enemy. I see a friend. You know, there's a woman at Mass here. She's a minister. She comes with her daughter. Her daughter's served, okay? Her husband is a devout Catholic. In fact, he teaches at a Catholic school. She is a minister in, I don't know what denomination. You know, I think of her. One day she'd be able to go to communion with us. She can't now. Not by my, I said, gee, you ought to come up, Michelle. She said, no, I can't. Not yet. See? Someday she will. And she's an ordained minister. That's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. Church works slowly, cautiously and slowly, deliberately and wisely. She doesn't chase fads. That's why she survived and empires have collapsed. That's the truth. Just when you think it's all over in Europe, you see it survive, while the powerful political entities collapsed. Look at the 20th century. See? Who was more powerful? Nazi Germany. Went down in the flames, you see. And yet the church survived there and flourished, you see. And I think it's part of the building block of Europe. It's still there. Not like it used to be, but it's still there. It's the heart and soul of Europe, is Judeo-Christianity. It lies at the very core of its experience. Same with America. Even though we're not as devout, maybe, as we were 50, 60 years ago, but we are faithful. We are believers. We are Christians, Judeo-Christians. We form our unique mode of singing the same gospel as the rest of the world, but we sing it our way. I love the song by Frank Sinatra, My Way. Well, we do it our way. And our way is a beautiful rendition of the gospel, but so is the European, Asian, and African versions. Uniquely special.